Poor girl pays a stranger's bus fare, not knowing he is a millionaire. His reaction stunned all. Before we begin, comment below the city you're watching from, and now, let's begin. It was the kind of cold morning that stung through thin jackets and settled into bones. The city was rushing, horns blaring, coffee cups steaming, shoes tapping across icy sidewalks. At a crowded bus stop on 48th and Lincoln, people huddled under the cracked plastic shelter, shoulders drawn up, eyes down. No one noticed the girl standing near the edge, her sneakers soaked, a blue hoodie too thin for November. Her name was Emily Rivers. She wasn't begging, wasn't selling, just waiting. In one hand, she clutched a folded dollar bill. In the other, a coin she'd flipped 3 times already. Heads, take the bus to work. Tails, walk and save the fare for lunch. She chose heads. The bus pulled up, coughing and squeaking to a stop. Emily stepped forward just as a man brushed past her. His coat was worn, his beard unshaven. He looked like any other guy who'd had a rough night. When he reached into his pockets and came up empty, the driver scowled. No fare, no ride. Off the bus, buddy. The man stepped back, lips parting. But he didn't argue, didn't plead, just nodded. He was about to turn away when Emily spoke. I got it, she said quietly. The driver glanced at her. You sure? She nodded, placing her crumpled bill on the reader. The machine beeped. 1 ride. Just 1. The man looked at her, his expression unreadable. Then he offered a half smile, small, brief. Thanks, he said. You didn't have to. Emily shrugged, already moving toward a seat in the back. Guess I did, she mumbled, more to herself than to him. He sat to rows ahead. Didn't speak again. Didn't look back. But Emily noticed the way his hand tapped his knee. Restless, like he wasn't used to sitting still. The ride was long. Gray buildings passed. Emily stared out the window, thinking about the long shift ahead at the diner, thinking about rent, about her mom's meds, about how the dollar she gave away would have bought a soup and half a sandwich. When she got off the bus, she didn't look back, didn't expect to see the man again. She didn't know he was still watching her from the window. Didn't see the way his eyes narrowed when she ducked into the old diner at the corner of 7th and Willow. His name was Ethan Vale, 42 years old, founder of one of the city's most lucrative tech firms, worth over $280 million. But this morning he was a stranger in a frayed coat, sitting on a bus with no wallet in hand. Not because he was lost, because he was testing something. Because last night, while sipping a 12-year scotch from his penthouse balcony, he realized something that chilled him more than the wind ever could. He no longer believed in kindness. Everything in his life came with a price tag: love, loyalty, even friendships. No one did anything unless there was something in it for them. So he made a choice. He left the suite, the driver, the assistant, the card. He walked into the world as just a man. And this girl with hollow cheeks and tired eyes, she gave away what little she had, without expecting anything back. Ethan stood across the street now, hands in his coat pockets, watching her through the diner window. She was wiping tables, hair tied back, a coffee pot in hand, smiling at a grumpy old man in the corner, laughing at a joke from the cook, living like she still believed in something. He turned away before she saw him. He needed to know more. Who she was, why she helped, and what would happen next if the truth ever came out. That night, Emily walked home under the glow of flickering street lamps. Her fingers were red from dishwater. Her back ached. She had $10 in tips and blisters. She didn't see the black car parked half a block away. Didn't notice the man watching her from behind tinted windows. But Ethan Vale was there. And tomorrow he would step back into her life not as the man who owed her a bus fare, but as someone who was about to turn her world upside down. And what he did next would stun more than just her. The next morning, Emily woke to the sound of rain tapping against her bedroom window. Another gray day. Her body ached from the double shift, but the thought of being late sent a jolt through her. She dressed quickly, same hoodie, same faded jeans. pinned her name tag back on, grabbed a half-eaten granola bar, and rushed out. She didn't see the envelope under the door until she stepped on it. She picked it up, brow furrowing. No name, no return address, just her first name scrawled across the front, Emily. Inside was a note. Thank you. Some debts deserve more than words. Taped to the note was a folded bus pass, a full month's fare, already activated. Her fingers tightened around it. Her chest warmed then cooled with suspicion. Who are you? She whispered to no one. At the diner, things were already in motion. Emily, we're slammed today. Table for needs coffee, and the dishwasher's broken again. Hollered Frankie, the owner, from behind the counter. On it, she called, slipping behind the register. She moved like clockwork, balancing trays, dodging spills, smiling even when her feet screamed. But her mind was spinning. That note, that handwriting, that man. She didn't want to hope, didn't want to believe someone like him, stranger, kind eyes. Quiet voice was still out there thinking about her, until she looked up, and there he was. He stepped into the diner like he'd done it 100 times. Same coat, cleaner shave. Same sharp eyes scanning the room until they found her. Their eyes locked. Emily froze. He walked up to the counter, calm as Sunday morning, still serving pancakes. He asked. She blinked. Yeah, all day. He smiled. Good. I owe you breakfast. Before she could respond, Frankie cut in, chuckling. Look who's back. You to know each other. Emily hesitated. He's just someone I helped on the bus. Ethan offered a hand. Name's Ethan. Emily, she replied, reluctantly shaking it. His grip was warm, steady, not like a stranger's at all. They sat at table 6. She poured his coffee, but stayed standing. I didn't expect to see you again, she said cautiously. I figured that, he replied, stirring cream into his cup. That's kind of the point. What is the point? He leaned back, eyes never leaving hers. You gave away your only dollar to someone you didn't know. No camera, no witnesses, no agenda. That kind of thing doesn't happen anymore. She looked down. It was just a bus fare. No, he said gently. It was more. Emily didn't know what to say. She'd been praised for good grades, for perfect attendance, but not for kindness. Not since her father left. Not since her mother fell sick. Not since life became about survival. Not virtue. You didn't have to leave the past, she said, folding the note from her pocket. I know. He nodded. But I wanted to. And I want to do more. Her brows lifted. Like what? Buy me lunch again? Ethan chuckled softly. No. I want to know you. The table fell into silence. Outside, rain streaked down the windows. Inside, Emily's heart thudded once then again. I'm not the kind of girl you want to know, she said finally, voice low. I clean counters and mop floors. I live in a 1-bedroom walk-up with a mother who doesn't remember my name half the time. I can't offer you anything. Ethan didn't flinch. I'm not here to take anything. He left the 20 on the table and stood. I'll be back tomorrow, if you want to talk. She didn't answer. Just watched as he walked out into the rain without an umbrella, shoulders relaxed, like he'd gotten exactly what he came for. That night, Emily lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Her mom's soft breathing in the next room was the only sound. She replayed every word, every look, every moment. Why did he come back? What did he want from her? And why was she hoping he'd come again? The next day, Ethan returned. Same table, same quiet smile. He ordered coffee, but didn't drink it. Just waited until Emily had a break until she slid into the booth across from him and said, You're not just some random guy, are you? He tilted his head. What makes you say that? Your watch, she smirked. It's not something a guy who needs bus fare usually wears. Ethan smiled. You're right. I wasn't entirely honest that day. Then who are you? He took a breath. I'm someone who forgot what people look like when they give without expecting anything back. Someone who needed to see if the world still had people like you in it. Emily swallowed. And now that you've found one, I want to help her, if she'll let me. She stared at him, at the man she thought was a stranger. A millionaire hiding in plain sight. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like just a girl behind a counter. But she also didn't know that behind his kindness, Ethan Vale was hiding something, too. The next morning, Emily found herself brushing her hair 3 times more than usual. The cracked mirror above her sink didn't make her look better, just more awake, more nervous. She didn't want to admit she was waiting for him, Ethan Vale. She still hadn't Googled him. She didn't want to, if she knew too much. It might change how she looked at him, how she looked at herself. Sweetheart, her mother's voice called from the other room, weak but clear today. Emily opened the door. Morning, Mama. You want toast? Her mom blinked slowly, smile faint, with jam. Emily nodded, her chest tightening. For one moment, her mom remembered. That was enough to carry her through the day. At the diner, he was already there. Same table, different coat this time, sharper, more tailored, not flashy, but unmistakably not poor. He stood when he saw her. I was starting to think you'd avoid me. Emily tossed her apron behind the counter. Almost did. Why didn't you? She met his eyes. Curiosity, I guess. He smiled. She sat across from him, folding her arms. Let's skip the small talk. Ethan nodded, sensing the shift. All right, what do you want from me? The question hung between them, laced with fear, with defiance, with something else she wasn't ready to name. Ethan didn't rush to answer. He looked at her like someone reading a book he didn't want to misinterpret. I don't want anything from you, Emily. She narrowed her eyes. People like you don't just give. You're used to being the one in control. That's true, he admitted. So again, why me? Ethan leaned forward, voice lower. Because when you had nothing, you still gave. You didn't ask for my name or my story. You didn't wait to judge if I was worth it. You just acted. He paused, and that moment the bus ride changed something in me. I had forgotten what it felt like to be surprised by people, to be moved. Emily's jaw tightened. And now you want to repay it, make yourself feel better. No, Ethan said softly. I want to do better. She looked down, voice quieter now. My life isn't some charity project. I know. I don't need saving. I know that too. Then why are you still here? He didn't answer at first. Then, barely above a whisper, because I like who I am when I'm around you. She blinked. Words failed her. Before she could respond, the bell above the diner door rang. Frankie stormed in, apron stained, waving a phone. Emily, it's your neighbor. Your mom's fallen again. You need to go. Her heart dropped. She was on her feet in seconds, tearing off the apron. I'll come with you, Ethan said, already moving. No, she started, but he was already outside, waving down a cab. They reached the apartment in minutes. The door was unlocked. Emily rushed in, calling out, Mama. She found her mother on the floor, trembling, one arm twisted under her. I'm here, Mama. I've got you, she whispered, tears rising. Ethan stepped inside behind her, quietly kneeling. Call an ambulance, Emily said, hands shaking. He already had. At the hospital, under harsh fluorescent lights, Emily sat in a hard plastic chair, staring at the floor. Ethan stood beside her, silent, present. She has a hairline fracture, the doctor finally said, and early onset dementia. She'll need observation and long-term care. Emily nodded, numb. She'd heard those words before, but this time, they sounded final. How will you manage? The doctor asked gently. Emily didn't answer, because she didn't know. Outside the room, Ethan turned to her. Let me help. No, she snapped. You've done enough. You're angry, he said calmly. I'm ashamed, she whispered. Ethan stepped closer. Emily, look at me. She did. I don't see weakness. I see strength you don't even recognize. A tear slipped down her cheek. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. That night, he arranged for her mother to stay in a private room. Paid in full. Didn't tell Emily, but she knew. When she walked in and saw the flowers, the warmth, the quiet, she knew. She sat beside her mother, took her hand, and whispered, He's not who I thought he was. Her mother stirred, eyes fluttering. Your father used to say that, she murmured. Emily froze. What do you mean? But her mother had already drifted back to sleep. Later that night, Ethan waited downstairs in the hospital lobby. Emily approached slowly. I don't trust this, she said plainly. I know. I don't trust you. Ethan looked at her, eyes steady. I'll earn it. She crossed her arms. I'm not some rescue story, Ethan. No, he said. You're the reason I came back to life. And with those words, he walked away, leaving her alone in the white light of the hallway. But not in touch. Not anymore. She didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. 3 days passed. Emily barely left the hospital. She curled into the stiff vinyl chair by her mother's bed. Her eyes burning from sleep she never really had. Nurses came and went. Machines beeped rhythmically. Her life had become a waiting room, and Ethan kept showing up, sometimes with coffee, sometimes with silence, always with patience. On the 4th morning, as the nurse wheeled her mother away for scans, Ethan returned, no coat this time, sleeves rolled up, carrying a paper bag. I brought food, he said simply, not from the diner, something edible. Emily raised an eyebrow but said nothing. She was too tired to argue. They sat side by side on the narrow bench in the hallway, unwrapping sandwiches that actually smelled decent. He handed her a bottle of orange juice. She stared at it for a second. Did you memorize everything I like? He looked amused. Only what you order when you're too tired to notice. She shook her head, biting into her sandwich, chewed in silence. Then, soft, why are you still here? Ethan didn't pretend to misunderstand. Because I want to be. People don't just stay like this, she said. Not in my life. I'm not people. She smirked, eyes still down. You're ridiculous. True, but persistent. That afternoon, her mother was moved to a rehabilitation room, warmer, cleaner, with a window view. Emily didn't ask how it happened. She didn't want to hear the number. She stood by the glass, watching pale sunlight stretch over rooftops. Ethan stood behind her. You should rest, he said. I don't rest well, she murmured. He hesitated. Come with me. She turned. Where? Out. Just for a little while. I'm not dressed. You look fine. She looked down at her jeans, stained and wrinkled. I look like I've been crying in fluorescent light for days straight. You look real. 15 minutes later, they were in his car, not a limo. Just a sleek black sedan with heated seats and classical music humming softly through the speakers. She didn't ask where they were going. He didn't say. The city blurred past gray buildings, slushy sidewalks, neon signs flickering half-lit. Then they pulled into a driveway that didn't belong in her world. A townhouse, red brick, ivy climbing the sides, white trim windows that glowed from within like it was always Christmas inside. Ethan parked, stepped out, opened her door. She stared at the place. I don't belong here. You do today. Inside, everything was soft. Lights, furniture, rugs so plush they swallowed her feet. There was no one else, just them. Where are we? My old place, he said, before everything got louder. You live here alone? Not anymore. She raised an eyebrow. Don't worry, he added quickly. No surprises. I just wanted you to have one quiet space in your day. Emily moved slowly, hands brushing over furniture that probably cost more than her yearly rent. She stood by the fireplace, where a small framed photo caught her eye. A little boy, maybe 5, on someone's shoulders, both laughing. Is this you? Ethan nodded, quietly. Who's the man? He didn't answer. She turned. Ethan. His eyes had darkened. My father. There was silence. What happened to him? He left, Ethan said. Walked out when I was 10. Came back into my life when I was 25, just long enough to die in my guest room. The words were flat, but his hands clenched at his sides. Emily stepped back, guilt washing over her. I didn't mean to pry. You didn't, he said. I don't talk about it. Not with anyone. She studied him, the man with polished shoes and expensive silence, and saw something new. A crack in the armor. Not weakness, just history. Later, as the fire flickered and rain tapped gently on the window panes, Emily sat curled in a blanket on the velvet couch. You've got good taste in couches, she murmured. You've got good taste in bus fare." She laughed a sound that surprised even her. Then, more softly, "Why me, Ethan? Really?" He didn't answer right away. "Because I've spent years surrounded by people who look perfect, act perfect, and feel like nothing. You walked into my life with tired eyes and a dollar you didn't have to give. And somehow you made me remember I used to believe in people." Emily looked down at her hands. She wanted to say thank you. She wanted to say she was scared. Instead, she said, "I have to go back soon." He nodded. "I'll drive you." They didn't speak much on the way back, but when he stopped outside the hospital, Emily turned to him. "I don't want to owe you anything." "You don't. But if I keep letting you do this, you still won't," he said, "unless you stop meaning it." She stared at him, and he said nothing more. Just let her go. That night, as she lay beside her mother's bed again, watching her chest rise and fall, Emily whispered, "Why now? Why him?" She didn't have the answer, but she knew this. For the first time in years, someone had given her space without making her feel small in it. And maybe, just maybe, that was worth staying curious about. But Ethan wasn't the only one keeping secrets, and Emily was about to find out why kindness always comes with a cost. For days had passed since Emily last saw Ethan. Not because he hadn't shown up, but because she hadn't let him in. She answered his texts with single words, let his calls go to voicemail. She told herself it was for the best, that she needed space, that this had gone too far, too fast. But every night, she stared at the phone. Every morning, she listened for the sound of his car outside the hospital. It didn't come. "Your boyfriend hasn't visited," the nurse teased as she adjusted her mother's fore. Emily flushed. It's not like that." Her mother turned slightly in bed, eyes barely open. "That the man with the quiet voice?" Emily nodded. "Yeah, I like him." Her mother whispered, "He makes you smile." Emily's heart ached. She hadn't smiled in days. That afternoon, when her mother fell asleep, Emily stepped outside for air. Cold wind slapped her face. She didn't put her hood up, didn't care. She walked until her feet ached past familiar blocks, the diner, the alley where she once cried over her first paycheck, past the shelter she used once, just once. On the night their heat got cut, memories clung to her like smoke. She ended up back at her apartment, not the hospital, not the safe warmth of rehab walls, but the dusty old one-bedroom she hadn't stepped into in a week. She climbed the stairs slowly, unlocked the door. It smelled like dust and regret. There was a letter on the counter. No stamp, no name, just her. Inside was a single piece of paper. "You said you wanted distance. I gave it, but I'm still here. E." Emily sank into the old armchair, her breath shaky. She built her walls so high, and now she didn't know how to climb down from them. The next morning, she went back to the hospital early. The nurse greeted her with a raised eyebrow. "Someone's been waiting." Emily froze. She turned the corner, and there he was. Ethan, hair tousled, coffee in hand, and eyes that didn't carry judgment, just quiet patience. She stepped closer. "I'm sorry," she said before he could speak. He smiled gently. "For what?" "For hiding. I figured that's what it was." "Why didn't you push?" "Because I don't want you to feel trapped." Emily looked down. "I'm not used to people giving me space and staying." "Well," Ethan said, "you're just going to have to get used to me." They walked together to the rehab room. Her mother was awake, sipping juice slowly. She smiled when she saw Ethan. "So you're the one who made my daughter soft." Emily blushed. Ethan chuckled. "I don't know about soft, ma'am." She still glares like she's auditioning for a courtroom drama. Her mother laughed a real laugh, raspy and warm. It was the first time Emily saw color in her cheeks in weeks. After the visit, Emily and Ethan walked outside. The sky was overcast again. "You want breakfast?" he asked. She nodded. They ended up back at his townhouse. This time, she didn't flinch when he opened the door. Didn't hesitate when he said, "You can stay as long as you like." And yet, as he made her tea and buttered toast, something in her stomach twisted. There was a question she'd never answered, a truth she'd never shared, and it was beginning to burn. Later that day, Ethan sat at his office, not the townhouse, but his real world. His company's high-rise downtown, with glass walls and assistants who walked too fast and smiled too little. Mr. Vale, his assistant, peeked in. "There's someone here asking about a woman named Emily Rivers." Ethan's eyes sharpened. "Who?" He didn't say, just that he's from the past. Ethan stood. "Send him in." The man who walked in was lean, scruffy, with a crooked nose and eyes that didn't match his forced smile. "You don't know me," he said, "but I know her, Emily, from way back." Ethan said nothing. The man dropped into a chair. "Just thought you should know she's got stories. Things she don't say. Things that could mess up a man like you." "What things?" "Oh, you know, old debts, old names, old flames." He grinned. "I'm not here to make trouble. Just figured information has value." Ethan's voice was ice. "If you ever show up here again, you'll regret it." The man stood, hands raised. Message received. That night, Ethan sat alone in his townhouse, staring at the same photo Emily once asked about. The little boy, the father who left. He thought about Emily's eyes, how they always looked like they were waiting for something to fall apart. Now he knew why. She was still living in survival mode. And maybe there was a reason. The next time he saw her, she was sitting on his porch, wrapped in the old blanket he'd left out for her, looking small, looking scared. "I need to tell you something," she said. He sat beside her. "I wasn't always this version of me," she whispered. "There was a time I did things I'm not proud of, things I had to do." Ethan didn't interrupt. "I took jobs under fake names, lied to landlords, borrowed money I couldn't repay, trusted people I shouldn't have." Her voice cracked. "There was a man once. He said he'd help, said he loved me. I let him into our lives. He stole everything we had." She turned to Ethan. "I've spent the last 3 years trying to clean up that mess. That's why I keep pushing you away. I don't trust myself. I don't trust anyone." Ethan looked at her for a long time. Then he reached over, took her hand. "Thank you for telling me." She stared. "That's it. I said I'd earn your trust," he said, "not judge your past." Her eyes brimmed, and when she leaned into him just for a moment, it wasn't weakness. It was finally letting someone in. But what neither of them knew was that the man from her past hadn't disappeared. And he wasn't done yet. The week that followed felt strange. Not like a fairy tale, not like some sweeping romance, but like the beginning of a life Emily had never allowed herself to imagine. Every morning, she split her time between the hospital and the diner. Every evening, she returned to the townhouse, not because she had to, because she wanted to. The place didn't feel like a stranger's anymore. Her toothbrush lived beside his. Her shoes rested on his rug. There was soup in the fridge she hadn't made, and post-it notes on the mirror that said things like, "You survived Tuesday. That's worth a cookie to eat." It was slow. It was gentle. It was real. But even in softness, shadows lingered. One afternoon, as Emily walked home from the hospital, a figure stepped from an alley near the grocery store. The voice called. She froze, then turned. Her stomach dropped. "Cal," she whispered. It was him. Same crooked smile, same leather jacket, same eyes that once made her question her worth. Well, he smirked. "Still got that sharp memory, huh?" She took a step back. "What are you doing here?" "Relax, sweetheart. I come in peace. You don't belong in my life anymore." "Funny," he said, stepping closer, "because I hear you upgraded. New man, new digs. Must be nice." Her hands clenched. "Stay away from me." He tilted his head. "I just want a conversation. Whatever you're selling, I'm not buying." He leaned in. "You owe me, Em. You think I forgot? I paid for everything you took," she hissed, "with years of my life." He grinned, but not with interest. She walked away, didn't look back, didn't stop shaking until she was inside Ethan's townhouse, door locked, breath ragged. He wasn't home yet. She slid down the wall, pressing her forehead to her knees. She thought she buried the chapter, thought it couldn't reach her here. But ghosts don't stay buried when they know your name. Later that night, Ethan returned. She didn't tell him. Not yet. Not while her heart was still trembling and her past still had breath. The next day, Ethan met with his company's legal counsel. It was routine quarterly reviews, paperwork, numbers, until a note was slipped onto the conference table. A man named Cal Jensen has been asking questions, said he used to live with someone close to you. Ethan felt a chill he hadn't felt in years. The name matched the man who showed up at his office days ago. And now, the picture was coming together. Fast. That evening, he found Emily on the townhouse rooftop, wrapped in his old sweater, staring at the skyline. He handed her tea. She accepted it wordlessly. I had someone look into a name, he said gently. Cal Jensen. Her fingers froze on the cup. She didn't ask how he knew, just said, he found me yesterday. I know. She looked away. I didn't want to drag you into this. You're not dragging me. I walked in. Silence stretched between them. Then she whispered, he ruined everything. Ethan, my credit, my job history, my safety. He used me and then disappeared. Now he's back, and I'm scared. Ethan's voice was steel. You don't have to be. Not anymore. But fear doesn't disappear with promises. That night, someone slipped an envelope under the townhouse door. Inside, an old photo of Emily and Cal. Back when she smiled less. Back when she looked owned. Scrawled on the back, I can talk to the press, or I can talk to you. Name a price. Ethan burned the photo. Didn't tell Emily. Not yet. Instead, he made a call. One he hadn't made in years. Tom. I need background. I need leverage. Quietly. His old head of security, now retired, grown on the other end. You're really doing this for a waitress? She's not just a waitress. A pause. Then she's worth doing it, right? Meanwhile, Emily visited her mother, whose recovery had been slow but steady. They played cards, laughed, talked about the weather like it mattered, until her mom took her hand, eyes sharper than they'd been in weeks. You're hiding something again. Emily froze. Her mother's gaze was soft, not accusing. I know that look, Em. You wore it when your dad left, when that boy broke your heart, and now. Emily swallowed. I'm trying to protect what I have. You can't protect something by lying to it. That night, she waited for Ethan on the porch. When he arrived, she held up the burned edges of the photo. I know. He didn't flinch. I should have told you, he said. I should have, too. They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she asked, are you going to walk away now? Ethan looked at her. No. Why not? Because loving someone means choosing them, even when their past shows up uninvited. But even as they spoke those words, across town, in a smoky bar filled with bad decisions, Cal Jensen dialed a number he should never have found and said, yeah, I got something on Ethan Vale, and I want to cash in. The past wasn't done with either of them, and this time, it had claws. The phone buzzed at 6:12 a.m. Ethan opened one eye, already knowing it wouldn't be good news. He reached across the bed. Emily wasn't there. She was probably downstairs making tea, humming off key like she did when she thought no one was listening. He slid the screen open. The Daily Ledger ran with it, page 3. Millionaire's girlfriend has a criminal past. We tried to kill it, but someone paid well. He sat up, heart steady, breath shallow. By the time he came downstairs, Emily was staring at the newspaper. Not moving, not crying, just reading. Her face was unreadable, like someone had pulled the soul out and left a body in pause. When she finally looked up, her voice was soft. So now the whole world knows. Ethan sat across from her. It's just noise. No, she said. It's not. She slid the paper toward him, finger tapping a paragraph. Emily Rivers, former associate of known con artist Cal Jensen, once worked under multiple aliases in New Jersey, where she was allegedly involved in small-scale fraud, unpaid debts, and illegal tenancy. He read the words, then looked at her. You told me most of this, but not all, she admitted. I didn't think it would matter. I didn't think anyone would ever care who I used to be. Ethan reached for her hand. Who you were isn't who you are. I know that, she said. But your world doesn't, your board doesn't, your investors don't. By 9 a.m., his office was chaos. Headlines, stock dips, angry voicemails from PR. Distance yourself. Issue a statement. Say it was a short-lived romance. He sat at the head of the long glass table, eyes calm, voice steady. I'm not abandoning her. An executive leaned forward. With all due respect, Ethan, this woman could sink our quarter. She's not sinking anything. She's radioactive. She's mine. The room fell silent. By noon, Ethan stood in front of a dozen flashing cameras. His voice echoed across the microphones. I met Emily Rivers on a bus. She didn't know who I was. She gave what little she had to help a stranger. What I found in her honesty, strength. Humanity is rarer than anything I've seen in boardrooms or bank accounts. Yes, she has a past. So do I. But I choose her, and I stand by that choice. Back at the townhouse, Emily watched the press conference live. She clutched a mug in both hands, tears silently running down her cheeks. She didn't cry for shame. She cried for being seen. But across town, Cal Jensen wasn't finished. He watched the same broadcast from a dim motel room, eyes dark. He tossed his burner phone aside and opened a laptop. Time for Plan B, he muttered. If Ethan wants to play hero, let's see how he handles war. That night, Ethan returned home exhausted but resolute. He found Emily sitting on the stairs, wrapped in a blanket, face flushed from crying. You didn't have to do that, she whispered. Yes, I did. She shook her head. They'll come for you next. Let them. What if it costs you everything? Ethan knelt in front of her. I've already had everything. The houses, the awards, the headlines, none of it meant anything. But you mean something real. She leaned into him, let herself believe it. For one night, they pretended the world was quiet. But it wasn't. The next morning, his security team called. Cal broke into the old property in Jersey, the one she used under the alias Murray Dean. He left a message. It wasn't subtle. What did it say? Ethan asked. The agent hesitated, then read aloud. You can have her, Ethan, but you'll never really own her truth. Ethan sat alone in his study that night, not angry, not afraid, just still. He picked up a photograph of his younger self back when he believed the world was made of rules and logic. Then he glanced toward the stairs, where Emily was humming off-key again as she folded laundry. And he smiled, because no matter what the past threw at them, he wasn't letting go. Not now, not ever. But Cal wasn't done playing, and his next move would threaten not just reputations but lives. It started with a phone call at 17 a.m. Emily's cell buzzed twice before she answered, her voice thick with sleep. Hello, a nurse's voice on the other end. Miss Rivers, your mother's room was tampered with. No one's hurt, but you should come. Emily sat bolt upright. Ethan drove her to the hospital, and minutes headlights slicing through the dark, tires chewing asphalt like it owed them answers. When they arrived, the security guard stood outside her mother's room. The nurse pulled her aside. There was a man, late 40s, slipped past visiting hours, said he was a cousin. Left before we could verify. Emily's blood ran cold. Did he touch her? No, just stood by her bed, whispered something, then walked out. Ethan's jaw tightened beside her. What did he say? Emily asked. The nurse looked nervous. He leaned in and said, Tell Emily I'll see her soon. I never leave a tab unpaid. Emily barely slept that night. She sat by her mother's side, clutching her hand, replaying Cal's voice over and over again. Ethan stayed in the chair beside her. At dawn, he said softly, We're moving her. Emily turned. Where? My family's property. Upstate, private nurses. No one gets in unless I allow it. She won't understand. I don't care if it's inconvenient. She's not safe here. Emily hesitated, then nodded, because deep down, she knew Cal wasn't bluffing anymore. The move was quiet, discreet. No headlines, no paperwork trails, just a black SUVs, a decoy hospital transfer, and a locked gate 20 miles north of the city. The nurses were kind, the room spotless. Emily stayed with her mother the first night, while Ethan made calls from the study. The next morning, Emily returned to the city just for a few hours. She had things to grab, diner shifts to cancel, loose ends to tie. She didn't tell Ethan she was going alone. She didn't want to seem fragile. But as she stepped inside her old apartment for the first time in weeks, something felt off. The air was too still, the light too dim. She took one step, then saw it. Her dresser open, not broken, just moved. And on the mirror, written in soap, "You're still mine." She backed out, breath shallow, phone shaking in her hand. "Ethan, I'm coming," he said immediately. "Don't touch anything. Get outside." "I'm already out." She didn't cry, didn't scream, just sat on the curb, knees pressed to her chest, like a child waiting for the dark to pass. That night, Ethan filed a formal report. Any way to tie it directly to Jensen? The detective asked. No fingerprints, no camera hits. But the message was personal, Ethan replied. The officer sighed. "Until he does something physical, our hands are tied." Ethan stared at him, then said, "Mine aren't." 2 nights later, Ethan met with Tom, the retired security chief, in a dim corner booth downtown. Tom slid over a manila envelope. "Cal's broke, gambling debts, kicked out of 3 states. But here's what matters, he's desperate. And cornered men don't bluff. They bite. What's his weak spot?" Tom raised an eyebrow. "You. He wants me to suffer." "Exactly. And the fastest way to hurt a man like you is through someone you love." Back at the townhouse, Emily stood on the balcony, arms folded against the wind. Ethan joined her, silent for a moment. Then, "I want you to leave." Her head whipped around. "What?" "Not for good. Just for now. Italy. The house in Florence. 2 weeks. Breathe." "I'm not running." "This isn't running," he said. "It's retreating to reload." She narrowed her eyes. "And you?" "I stay. I deal with him." "That's not fair." "Neither is the world." She paused, then said, "He's not after you. He's after me. And that's exactly why you have to go." The next day, she boarded a jet to Florence. Not because she agreed, but because Ethan looked at her with that expression, the one that said, "I'd take a bullet for you," and meant every syllable. She left behind a note. "I'm not gone. I'm just giving you space to fight clean. I'll come back when it's safer, when you need me more than you need a plan." But even as she soared 35,000 feet above the world, back in the city, Ethan received an anonymous text. A photo. Emily at the airport. Cal standing 2 terminals away, smirking, watching, because he never needed to touch her. He just needed her to feel like she never stopped being prey. The photo haunted him. Emily at the terminal, a coffee in hand, sunlight warming her face. And Cal, lurking 2 gates down, expression smug, not like a man stalking prey, but like a man playing chess and knowing he's 10 moves ahead. Ethan stared at the image, then set the phone down. His fingers curled into fists. It was no longer about threats. It was about message. Cal wanted Ethan to know, "I can reach her, wherever, whenever, and you can't stop me." He picked up the secure line, a number he hadn't dialed in 7 years. A voice answered after 1 ring. "Vale, David, I need the ledger." Silence. Then, "You sure?" "I wasn't before. I am now. I'll have it in 2 hours." Ethan hung up, and just like that, the man he buried, the one who built his first millions not in boardrooms but in the smoke-filled basements of East Harlem, came back to life. He changed into black slacks, no tie, black gloves tucked in his coat pocket. He didn't go to the office, didn't answer his peer team. He went to a warehouse off the Hudson. Inside, crates, computers, boxes labeled with numbers, not names. David XNSA, now independent data broker, stood by a steel table. "Cal Jensen's file," he said, handing over a hard drive, plus the names of 3 people who still take his calls. Ethan scanned the names. "You trust them?" David smirked. "I don't even trust myself." Ethan pocketed the drive. "Make sure this never existed." Back at the townhouse, Ethan pulled up a secure laptop. The files loaded fast. Alias history, 9 names. Last known transactions, 14 failed hotel charges. Active burner phone, triangulated to Lower Brooklyn, near Old Docks. 1 flagged line, recent outbound call to Florence, Italy. He stared. So Cal had followed her. But why not strike? Why linger? Because this wasn't about hurting Emily. It was about breaking Ethan. And Ethan wasn't going to break. At 2 a.m., Ethan drove alone to the docks. Cold wind off the water cut through his coat. But he didn't flinch. He walked into a condemned building, steel door hanging off its hinges. Inside, darkness, and then movement. A man stepped forward. Not Cal, but close. You Vale. Where's Jensen? The man smiled. Depends who's asking. Ethan pulled out a small envelope, tossed it onto a crate. $5 grand. Another 5 if you give me something I can use. The man picked it up, waited. Then, he's heading out. Got a boat. Small. Unregistered. Planning something. Where? Didn't say. But he kept talking about a girl. Said she ruined his life. Said he'd ruin hers quiet. Not messy, just slow. Ethan's voice was razor sharp. If you hear from him again, you call me. The man laughed. You gonna kill him? Ethan didn't blink. No, but I'll end him. Back home, Ethan stood under the shower, water scalding hot. He scrubbed at his skin like he could wash off the decisions he was about to make. He had always walked the line. Billionaire. Yes, but clean. Untouched. Now he was back in the dark, and he didn't care. Meanwhile, in Florence, Emily sat in a quiet room with sunlight pouring through an open window. The villa was everything Ethan promised: beautiful, safe, silent. But she couldn't shake the feeling in her chest. Oh wait, a warning. She tried calling Ethan. No answer. She texted, everything okay? No reply. Just 3 dots. Typing. Then gone. Back in Newark, Ethan met with Frankie, the diner owner, and a closed kitchen. You remember the man who came by asking about Emily? Frankie nodded. Creepy dude. Thought he was her brother or something. He's not. Ethan slid a photo across the table. Frankie whistled. Yup, that's him. I need the security footage. Frankie scratched his head. You really love her, huh? Ethan's answer was quiet. More than I thought I was capable of. That night, Ethan received another message. No name, no subject. Just a video. Emily on the balcony in Florence. And Cal's voice behind the camera. Funny thing about money, Ethan. It buys silence. It buys access. But it doesn't buy time. Tick-tock. Ethan called his jet. Prep a flight to Florence. I leave in 2 hours. He grabbed a duffel bag, not filled with clothes, with papers, with files, with names. Because if Cal wanted war, he'd get it. But what Ethan didn't know was this. Cal wasn't alone anymore. And someone from Ethan's own circle, someone trusted, had helped Cal get that close. The line between safety and betrayal was about to shatter. And Ethan Vale was ready to burn everything down to save the woman he loved. The private jet sliced through the clouds like a secret. Ethan Vale sat in the cabin, eyes fixed on the folder in his lap. His tie was gone. His sleeves were rolled. This wasn't the Ethan of boardrooms and speeches. This was the man from before. The one who built empires in silence and destroyed threats with a whisper. David's last message before takeoff had been short. The leak came from inside. You won't like who. Enclosed was a single photo, a security feed, a timestamp, and a man Ethan had known for 10 years. Daniel Reed, his right hand, the one who sat beside him in press conferences and apparently next to Cal Jensen in a downtown bar 2 weeks ago. Ethan didn't blink, didn't flinch. He just whispered, "So it was you." Back in Florence, Emily stood on the edge of the villa's terrace. The sunset was beautiful, all orange and gold spilling over Tuscan hills. But it didn't touch her. Her hands trembled on the railing. She hadn't told anyone yet. But that morning she found her suitcase moved. Just an inch. Just enough. And last night, she thought she heard someone breathing outside her door. Maybe it was nerves. Maybe it wasn't. She called Ethan again. No answer. Just voicemail. Hey, it's me. If you're flying, I get it. Just call me when you land, okay? I don't want to be scared. Not now. Not after everything. She hung up and sat with her back against the door, heart pounding. The plane landed in a private strip outside Florence just after midnight. Ethan moved fast. No luggage. Just a burner phone. Just a black duffel filled with everything he'd need to erase a ghost. A black sedan waited for him courtesy of a contact from years ago. Inside, the driver nodded to the Vale estate. Yes, Ethan said, fast and quiet. As the car sped down narrow roads, Ethan stared out the window, then checked the tracker. He'd installed one in Emily's pendant, the one he gave her when she moved in. She never knew. It blinked steady. Still at the villa. Still safe. For now. But 15 minutes out, the signal flickered. Then died. Emily's hand shook as she held the teacup. She hadn't locked her window. She always did. She swore she had. And yet now, it was cracked open. Just slightly. Just wide enough. She turned toward her bag. It was gone. No, not gone. Moved. Again. Then, from behind her a sound. She turned, and there he was. Cal, you didn't think I'd let you run forever, did you? He said, stepping from the shadows. Emily backed up, heart slamming. You're not supposed to be here, she whispered. I'm never supposed to be anywhere. Doesn't stop me. He stepped closer. Where's Ethan? She demanded. Cal smiled. Closer than you think. Ethan's car screeched to a halt outside the estate gates. Lights were off. No guards in sight. His gut clenched. He ran the last 100 feet, vaulting the iron gate, ignoring the gash it left on his hand. Inside, silence. To quiet. Then a crash upstairs. He didn't wait. Emily struggled against Cal's grip, her elbow connecting with his jaw. He swore, staggering back. You still got fight in you? I respect that. Get out, she hissed. He laughed. Oh, Emily, you really think Vale loves you? You think he won't fold the second he has to choose between you and everything he's built? I know he won't. Cal's face twisted, and then the door burst open. Ethan, breathless, wild-eyed, holding nothing but fury in his stare. Let her go, he growled. Cal didn't move. Or what? He sneered. You gonna write me a check? No, Ethan said, and then he pulled the gun from his coat. Small, black, cold. Emily froze. Ethan, I told you, he said softly, never taking his eyes off Cal. If you ever got near her again, I'd end it. Cal held his hands up. Come on, Vale, you're not a killer. Ethan stepped forward. I'm whatever she needs me to be. Emily reached out, touched Ethan's hand. Don't, she whispered. If you do this, you lose the part of yourself I fell for. His hands trembled. Cal grinned. I knew it. You're soft. Both of you. Ethan looked at Emily, then lowered the gun. Leave, he told Cal, and pray I don't change my mind. Cal walked out, but not without a smile. This isn't over. Ethan stepped closer. Yes, it is, then slammed the door. An hour later, the police arrived. Not locals, private contacts. Cal had vanished again, but this time, with an international warrant on his head. Emily sat by the fire, blanket around her shoulders. Ethan sat across from her, hands still trembling. I would have done it, he said, if you hadn't stopped me. I know, she whispered. He looked up. I'm scared I'm not who I thought I was. She shook her head. You're more than who you were. You're who you chose to be tonight. Outside, dawn began to break. Florence breathed in gold and pink. But inside the villa, the past had finally been shut out. Not forgotten, not forgiven, but faced together. And while the war wasn't over, the battlefield was theirs now, on their terms. The villa was quiet now. No shadows in the hall, no whispers outside windows. Just wind brushing through olive trees and the faint scent of lemons from the orchard. Emily stood barefoot in the kitchen, pouring hot water over tea leaves. Her hand steady for the first time in days. Ethan walked in behind her, hair still damp from the shower, sleeves rolled, eyes softer. Green tea, she said, handing him a cup. Figured you'd try to detox from adrenaline. He chuckled. Is that a thing? She raised an eyebrow. I wouldn't know. I've never lived like this before. He leaned against the counter, sipping quietly. "You didn't ask what happened before I got there," he said. "I didn't need to," she replied. "Your eyes told me." They sat outside on the terrace, the morning light casting shadows between them. "I meant it," Ethan said, "if you hadn't stopped me." "I know," she whispered. "Would it have changed how you see me?" "No," she said, eyes unwavering. "It would have changed how you see yourself." He stared at her, jaw tight. "I've lived most of my life making powerful decisions. But that night, it wasn't about power. It was about fear. And I hate what fear makes me." Emily reached for his hand. "Then let's not live in fear anymore." They returned to New York 3 days later. The airport was chaos. Reporters, cameras, flashbulbs. The photo of Ethan with a gun had leaked, blurred, but unmistakable. Speculation ran wild. As billionaire Ethan Vale snapped, mysterious trip to Florence sparks legal rumors. Who is Emily Rivers and why is she still here? Emily stepped into the townhouse and felt the weight return, not danger this time, but judgment. Whispers, watching eyes. She turned to Ethan. "Maybe I shouldn't be here." He shut the door behind them. "You're exactly where you should be." The next morning, Daniel Reed, the coup who betrayed Ethan, resigned. Publicly, said it was health-related. Privately, Ethan confronted him in his glass office. Door locked, voice low. "You sold my life for what? Leverage, revenge." Daniel's expression was blank. "You stopped listening years ago, Ethan. You let feelings get in the way. I gave the board what they needed, a reason to rein you in." Ethan stepped closer. "You handed Emily to a predator." Daniel's face twitched. "I didn't know Cal would." "No," Ethan cut in. "You didn't care. And that's worse." Daniel left the company the next day, quietly, with a check that didn't clear. Emily, meanwhile, returned to the diner. Frankie hugged her like a father. The other girls watched her like a legend. "You okay?" one asked. "I will be," Emily smiled. She worked a full shift, took orders, washed mugs. No one asked about Ethan. No one brought up the headlines. And for the first time, she didn't feel like a charity case. She felt capable. That night, Ethan cooked, or tried to. Emily stood behind him, laughing as he butchered the garlic. "You're worth 9 figures and this is how you crush cloves." "I'm self-taught," he grinned. "You're self-endangering." They sat on the floor, eating pasta that tasted like salt and defiance. And for one small, perfect moment they forgot the world. But peace has its own cost. The next morning, Ethan's legal team called. "We have to make a choice. Either bury the story, pay out half a dozen media outlets, and fire half your PR team. Or lean in, go public, tell the truth." Ethan hung up without answering. Emily stood nearby, drying her hair. "What will you do?" He turned slowly. "I want to tell them everything. Who you are, who we are. But I don't want to drag you through another storm." She walked toward him. "Telling the truth isn't a storm. It's a sunrise." He exhaled. "Then we do it together." The next evening, Ethan went live. No press conference, just a video. Simple, unedited. "My name is Ethan Vale. I built a company from nothing, lost my father to silence, and found the one person who made all of it mean something. Her name is Emily Rivers. She saved me. From loneliness, from ego, from forgetting what it means to be human. Yes, she has a past, and so do I. But our future, it's not built on what we ran from. It's built on what we're brave enough to run toward, together." Within 24 hours, the internet erupted. Some called it reckless. Some called it romantic. But no one called it fake. And in a world built on filters and fiction, that made all the difference. That night, Emily stood on the balcony, arms wrapped in Ethan's jacket, city lights winking behind her. He joined her, quiet. "You think we did the right thing?" he asked. She nodded. "We didn't choose the easy life, but we chose us." Ethan smiled, then reached into his pocket, pulled out a small, velvet box. Emily's breath caught. "Is that?" He opened it. "Not a ring, a key to the house upstate," he said. "It's not a proposal, not yet, but it's home, if you want it. She took it, held it to her heart. I already do. But just when they thought they could breathe again, someone neither of them expected was about to step out of the shadows with a truth that could unravel it all. The envelope arrived on a Thursday. No stamp, no logo, just a smooth, cream-colored rectangle slipped under the townhouse door. Emily picked it up as she came home from the diner. She turned it over in her hands. No name, just one word, handwritten in calligraphy. Ethan. She left it on the kitchen island, assuming it was some overly polished fan letter from a supporter or maybe a silent protest from someone passive-aggressive enough to use thick parchment. When Ethan came home, he spotted it instantly. His face drained of color. He didn't speak, just picked it up and opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No threats, no demands. Just the truth. And it shattered everything. He sat down heavily on the stool. Emily noticed the way his fingers trembled. Ethan, she asked, crossing the kitchen. He didn't answer. She picked up the letter from the counter, but he covered it with his hand. I need a minute, he said. She stepped back, silent, afraid. Later that night, after the silence stretched far too long, he came upstairs, the letter still in hand. I need to tell you something, he said. Emily nodded, holding her breath. There was a woman years ago, before I built the company, before the suits and jets, and before I had anything. He looked away. She was smart, fierce, wild. We were fire, and fire burns. Emily stayed quiet, still listening. We broke each other, Ethan said. She left. I never chased. I thought it was over. He looked down at the letter. She died 2 months ago. Emily blinked. I'm sorry. She had a daughter, Ethan whispered. Silence. She says I'm the father. The world slowed. Emily gripped the banister behind her. Are you sure? There's a test. Enclosed. He handed it to her. A DNA confirmation. Positive. She sank onto the bed. How old? She finally asked. 6. Does she know you? No. He said. Not yet. Emily ran a hand through her hair, exhaling slowly. This changes everything, she said. Ethan looked devastated. It doesn't have to. Over the next few days, they barely spoke. Not because of anger, but because of fear. What would a child mean? For their future? For the wound still healing? Emily went back to the diner, poured coffee, smiled through aching teeth. Ethan visited lawyers, doctors, the estate planner. He hadn't even seen the child yet, but he already felt her weight in his world. Then came the second envelope, this time addressed to Emily. She opened it on the fire escape, legs crossed under her, wind in her hair. Inside, a letter from the woman, written before her death. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And Ethan knows the truth. He's not the man I left, and you're the woman I wish I could have been. Strong, honest, good. If there's one thing I learned, love doesn't erase mistakes. It redeems them. Take care of my daughter. She'll need more than his money. She'll need you. See, Emily read it twice, then cried harder than she had in years. Not for herself, for a little girl who didn't even know her life was about to change. That night, Ethan found Emily sitting in the living room, holding the letter. He said nothing, just sat beside her. She handed it to him. He read it, then looked at her. I'm scared, he admitted. So, am I, she whispered. He took her hand. But I still choose you, every day, even now. She looked at him through tears. Then let's meet her, together. 3 days later, they drove north to a quiet town in Vermont where the girl lived with her aunt. Her name was Luna. She had Ethan's eyes and her mother's wild hair. She drew Emily a picture without being asked. A house, 3 people, a son, and the words, new family. Ethan choked on emotion. Emily knelt beside the child. Only if you want us, she said gently. Luna nodded and smiled. But even as a new life began, far away, a sealed file labeled Project Theta Veil blinked open on a secure server. And someone anonymous typed one line. He's vulnerable now. Time to finish what we started. The townhouse no longer felt like a bachelor's sanctuary. There were crayons on the coffee table, Luna's little shoes at the door. A blanket on the couch she insisted on calling her thinking cloud. And laughter. So much laughter. Emily stood in the kitchen, watching Ethan help Luna tie her shoelaces backward. Wrong foot again, she giggled. I'm testing your symmetry, Ethan replied with a smirk. Emily's heart warmed, but in the corner of the living room, her eyes caught something else. Ethan's old laptop. Screen slightly cracked, blinking red. She frowned. Ethan. He followed her gaze, walked over, and froze. Because only one server used the warning protocol, and it hadn't been accessed in 11 years. He excused himself, locking the study door behind him. Typed a series of encrypted keys. Then the screen flickered. A message appeared. Project Theta. Reactivated. Subject. Ethan Vale. Flagged. High-value asset turn liability. Status. Marked for observation. Elimination if compromised. Ethan leaned back in his chair. Face unreadable. He had buried this. Long ago. Theta wasn't a company. It wasn't a project. It was a covert investment syndicate he helped build in his early 20s. A group that funded early black market tech, legal gray areas, and bleeding-edge surveillance tools. In exchange for profit, control, power. He left when he realized the price: human data, behavioral manipulation, lives. He tried to dismantle it, but you don't walk away from shadows. You just move faster than they do. Later that night, he sat on the balcony, staring into the city's glow. Emily joined him, blanket around her shoulders, barefoot. You've been quiet, she said. There's something I never told you, Ethan replied, about my first fortune. She didn't interrupt. He told her about Theta, about the secrets, about the one signature he refused to give and the list of people who had disappeared after similar refusals. She listened, silent and steady. When he was done, he waited for judgment, but she just said, "Do they know about me? About Luna?" He nodded once. "I don't know what they'll do or how they'll move, but the fact they've resurfaced means they're watching." The next day, Luna's school application was delayed. No explanation, just an IT issue. That night, the townhouse alarm triggered briefly, then shut itself off before Central Dispatch could verify. 2 days later, Ethan's private credit line was flagged for suspicious behavior, traced to an IP address in Zurich. And on the third day, Frankie, the diner owner, called. Someone came by, said they were from city inspections, but they asked about you. Ethan knew the pattern. It wasn't violence. It was erasure. Systematic is silent, untraceable. Until one day, the life you built is gone. He met with Tom again, his former security chief, this time not in a booth, but in an abandoned data vault under a bank he once owned. They're resurfacing, Ethan said. Tom's face hardened. You think they want leverage? I think they want blood. Tom handed him a thumb drive. Encrypted list. Every Theta operative still active. Some clean, some not. Ethan hesitated. I need to protect them. Though we strike first, Tom said. Back home, Emily found a package at the door. Inside, a silver locket and a note. She looks just like her mother. Pity what happened to Caroline. Caroline, the woman Ethan once loved. Luna's mother. Emily stood frozen, then dropped the locket into the trash. But she didn't tell Ethan. Not yet. Not until she could be sure this wasn't just about him, but also about her. That night, she called the number on the back of the note, blocked, of course. A voice answered. Male, crispy, smiling. Didn't think you'd call. Who are you? A friend. Of Caroline's. Of truth. Of balance. What do you want? To remind Ethan Vale, the voice said, that sins never vanish. They just compound. And compound interest is a killer. Emily didn't tell Ethan, but she changed the locks. She kept Luna in her line of sight, and she slept with the hallway light on. Because whatever this was, it wasn't over. It was only just beginning. And Project Theta wasn't just watching. It was circling. And this time, it wanted everything. The townhouse felt like a fortress now. Cameras repositioned. Doors reinforced. Windows replaced with ballistic glass. Luna thought it was a game. She called it Spy House. But Emily knew It was preparation. Ethan barely slept. He sat at the dining room table most nights, documents spread out like a war map. Tom paced beside him. They're not here to kill you, not yet. They want me isolated, Ethan muttered, untrusted, discredited, alone. Tom nodded. And if they succeed in that you won't need a bullet, you'll do it yourself. Emily watched from the hallway. This wasn't the man she fell in love with. This was the ghost of Ethan Vale, the one from rumors, whispers, startup folklore, the man who once made entire corporations vanish with one anonymous call. The man who could destroy or resurrect with a signature, now resurrecting himself. The next morning, Ethan gave Luna a goodbye kiss before school, then turned to Emily. There's a man I need to see. Emily crossed her arms. Who? A former Theta financier. He vanished years ago, off the grid. But I found him. She narrowed her eyes. And you think he'll help? No, Ethan said. But I think he'll remember fear. The meeting took place in a decommissioned train station outside Jersey. Dim, dusty, and silent. A man in his 60s waited on a bench. Thin, well-dressed, eyes sharp behind steel-framed glasses. You're late, he said. You're still breathing, Ethan replied. Be grateful. The man chuckled. The rumors were true. Then Ethan Vale's gone rogue. Ethan sat. Project Theta reactivated, and they sent me a message. The man smirked. They always send messages before they send someone else. Ethan leaned in. Tell me who's funding them now. Silence. Then, you don't want that name. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. That night, Ethan returned with a name. Emily was waiting. He looked at her, eyes tired. It's not just investors anymore. It's politicians, governments, tech conglomerates who need silent favors. She whispered, you can't fight them. He whispered back, I won't have to. Emily tilted her head. Then what? Ethan opened his laptop and started typing. Fast, codey old scripts, dead protocols, ghost servers. He wasn't going to fight Theta in the light. He was going to drag them into his dark. Meanwhile, Luna's school called. Ms. Rivers, the voice said, there was a man outside today, not on our approved pickup list. He didn't engage, just watched. Emily's blood froze. Did you get a description? We already sent it to your partner's security team. She hung up and ran. When she reached home, Luna was safe, coloring, smiling. Frankie had picked her up early, but Ethan was gone. Left a note on the counter. If I don't come back by dawn, use the file labeled 0 window. Give it to no one but Tom. Emily clutched the note and prayed. Ethan entered a warehouse in Queens just past 1 a.m. Inside, servers. Outdated, analog, immune to cloud taps. He connected a drive, launched the virus he designed 12 years ago. Code meant to shut down internal Theta comms for 72 hours. He had one window, to dismantle their leverage, to sever ties between the shadow investors and their puppets, to make the monster go blind long enough for him to hit back. But they were waiting, not in the warehouse, but at his townhouse. At 3:17 a.m., a van pulled up. Men in suits stepped out, quiet, precise. One spoke into a headset. Subject Ethan Vale is off-site. Target phase 2, psychological destabilization. They weren't here for blood. They were here for Emily. Emily woke to the sound of the alarm. Tom's voice boomed over the comms. Do not open the door. Back up in 3 minutes. I repeat, do not open the door. She grabbed Luna, ran to the panic room Ethan had built, still unfinished, but reinforced. Held her daughter close. Luna was shaking. Is this another game? She asked. Emily nodded, lied. Yeah. Baby Spy House Level 2. At 3:29 a.m., Ethan's phone pinged. Photo attached. Emily's face. Terror frozen mid-motion. Caption. Checkmate's coming. Ethan's hands clenched the wheel. Then he turned sharply, not toward home, but toward the origin server. Because checkmate only matters if the king has nowhere left to run. And Ethan had just moved his queen into position. Back at the townhouse, the security team repelled the incursion. No physical breach, just scare tactics. But it worked. Emily was rattled, Luna traumatized, and Ethan He didn't return at dawn, but on her phone, Emily received a message from Ethan. It ends tonight. Either I come home clean, or I don't come home at all. Project Theta thought they were watching a man fold. What they didn't see was a man building his endgame. And in last part, that game gets bloody. At 4:12 a.m., Ethan stood at the edge of a cliff in Westchester, wind ripping through his coat. Below him, a data bunker. Not government, not corporate. Theta's spine. The place every redacted decision and erased identity had passed through in the last 15 years. He adjusted the earpiece. Tom's voice crackled in. "You're early." "No," Ethan said. "They're late." Inside the bunker, 3 security layers deep, sat the core rows of servers humming like a sleeping beast. Ethan slipped past level 1 using a biometric override his own fingerprint, still stored from the years when he helped build this place. Level 2, a timed retinal scan, also still valid, because Theta never thought one of its own would return. Level 3, firewall breach. That was harder. He opened a laptop, ran the last script he wrote at age 26, codenamed Janus. A virus designed not to crash the system, but to mirror it. Everything Theta had: operations, names, blackmail files, bribes. Assassinations would be copied and broadcasted in real time to encrypted drops around the world. To journalists, to whistleblowers, to governments Theta thought it controlled. At 4:37 a.m., the upload began, and the first domino fell. In Munich, a senator's offshore accounts blinked into public light. In Tokyo, a defense firm CEO resigned. In D.C., 3 cell towers flickered Theta's relay points, then died. By 5:03 a.m., panic had a new name. Vale. Back in the townhouse, Emily paced the kitchen. Her hands clenched the note Ethan left in her coat pocket. "I love you, but the only way to save you is to become the man I promised I wouldn't. Tell Luna she was the best surprise of my life. And tell yourself, you didn't lose me. I gave myself away for you." She couldn't cry anymore. Not because she didn't want to, because she couldn't believe he would actually go. Until now, Tom called. "He's gone dark," he said. "What does that mean?" Emily asked, already knowing the answer. Tom sighed. "It means he did it. He took Theta down, but he's going to disappear." Emily sat down, dizzy. "He promised he wouldn't run." Tom replied gently. "He's not running. He's removing the target from your back." Meanwhile, on the edge of the Hudson, Ethan dropped the last drive into the river, then turned off his phone, burned the last ID card, walked down a path lit by nothing but headlights. A man waited in a Jeep. "You sure?" the driver asked. Ethan nodded. "No names, no trails." "Where to?" Ethan closed his eyes, then said softly, "Someplace where they can't follow, where she can live without checking over her shoulder." 6 months later, a news report crackled in the diner. The fall of the secretive investment syndicate known as Project Theta continues to send shockwaves through global markets. No one has claimed responsibility, but one name has vanished from all public records: Ethan Vale. Emily stood behind the counter, hair tied up, apron on. Luna sat in the corner, drawing. "Mom," she said. Emily turned. She never corrected it anymore. "What is it, baby?" Luna held up a picture. A man in a long coat, beside a woman, and a little girl, all holding hands under a sky full of stars. "Do you think he still watches us?" Emily knelt beside her. "I think he never stopped." That night, on the rooftop of the townhouse Ethan once owned, a silhouette stood, unseen, but there, watching, a soft smile under the moonlight, then gone. He gave away the world to give them peace, because some kinds of love aren't meant to be shared. They're meant to be guarded from a distance, forever.